just lean right into it. I'm amazed that Maui actually just stuck with his JKS angle. It was right there in front of you, Maui. So I'll do what should have been your point for you. Thorin's good point. Snax is bench from G2.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it.
And notice I did.
I was thinking about changing it actually mid-show.
But notice I didn't even say benched for insert this. No, just benched. That's it. There's the headline. There it is in fucking 38-point font. That's it. He's benched. It's over. The evil's gone. The good guys win again. No, because here's the thing. I actually think if you even listen to all the interviews about Snax from any of the players that were in his teams, here's the thing. A lot of people, by the way, I will say it, people like Nico Monty did look like they soft sort of flamed him in their departure interviews they've done since. But first of all, you never directly flamed him, which probably implies he was fine personality-wise. But I get the vibe, if you listen to even his defenders, he actually needs a specific type of team for him to be successful as a caller. Like, they do imply, if you talk to Ash from GamerLegion or Taz from G2, it is implied that one of the problems is Snax is the guy who in Virtus Pro used to do all the wacky Virtus plow tactics. And that means your team all has to be on the same page, but they have to actually be able to operate at quite a high level if you want to sort of change things on the fly between rounds. And actually, I got the vibe that when he was with GamerLegion, he was working with two inexperienced players. Normally you do the opposite with inexperienced players. You band-aid the game and make it very simple. And then when he was in G2, yeah, he had the Nikos and Morrissey, so it looked awesome. But then once those players left, it's why the team looked half as good. I always used to say, what's weird is you look at the players on even this season's G2, and they were good players, but fucking hell, they could just never win a game, it felt like. Then another team couldn't win a fucking best of 3 to save their lives because something was off with the structure. So I do feel like it's not even just lol, Snack sucks. Look, I just don't think he was a good IGL for G2, but I also get the sense this isn't even the right team for him, mate. He should probably go off and be in some other squad where it would work for him and they'd have players that actually suit his calling style. So I think it's just a net good. I'm just going to say good overall. G2 removes Snax. And I think if you look at the squad they've got now, listen, it's always going to look shit because it doesn't have the names Nico and Monassi. But if you could take out that it doesn't have Nico and Monassi and stupidly their CEO said they didn't want Simple, then actually they've not assembled a bad squad of players, actually. I actually think this is, again, it's a better roster than maybe you initially think when you look at it. I think if all these players really join, there's some potential here. What do you think, boys? Snax bench from G2.
Yeah, I think the big question mark is what Hunter can do as an IGL, but I would rather take that question mark and that potential over Snax as an IGL, just because he's a known quantity at this point, and I always thought that he was going to be a stopgap IGL when he was first brought on, but staying on for essentially a year was not necessarily what I was expecting, just frankly because he just wasn't ever showing the capability of it on GamerLegion for sure. Although there were moments individually, I think he could still be a fairly serviceable secondary caller, I think, on a team. I think he's got the capabilities of doing that. I think he still has certain kind of X-factor tendencies that he could bring to a team that I could enjoy in the near future. But he's getting up there in age at this point that I think that his move, I think Inner Circle was the team that people are suggesting, which is the old 9 core, which could be kind of fun in the near future. I think that is somewhere where you might get a little bit more buy-in. You have your own nationality of a roster, so you have a little bit more buy-in from them as well. So that could be interesting down the road. But I think for the G2 angle, retaining Malbs is huge, and I just hope that he has a little bit more of a core that he can shine as much as possible. It was very unfortunate to see his downturn once Nico and Monassi left, and now you see that there's this insane amount of pressure on this guy to perform, and I don't think that I think he's kind of buckled under that pressure, and he's not actually found himself for quite a while. Hopefully, with a little bit more stability, I think Matties is the player that is rumored around him. Maybe that could provide a little bit more stability for him, but I think that Hunter's got a lot on his plate to make sure that this guy is comfortable, because he obviously has the potential, but harnessing that consistency is, I think, the biggest thing. And Heavy God is still a very serviceable anchor. He's not obviously lived up to the potential that I saw from him on OG, but I think, again, he's still got that potential to kind of showcase himself. So a lot for Hunter to do, but again, I would rather take that potential of a guy that has previously secondary called over someone that clearly just wasn't cut out to be an IGL with the number of pieces that he was given.
All right, let me just keep the record straight. I was the first on Hot Take Point Made anti-Snax narrative driver, where I said that Taz should be fired for simply suggesting or accepting Snax.
So you also technically started the so X should be fired meta. You also pioneered that.
Yeah, I was trying to get. I was so against everything here, and people. I think people were like, "Oh, just give him a chance, like watch it." But it's like like not we, because as a pundit, my role is different in this space. But as a manager or as a coach or anybody that has anything to do with teams and their outcomes, you should have been able to look at GamerLegion with Snax and said to yourself, okay, that is the worst team at T-sides in the entire top 30. Like, they literally had the worst round win percentage on T-side of any team, and I forgot whether it was top 20 or top 30 for the entire duration of Snax being the in-game leader. Like, they were so bad on that side. And you could give... you could say that Snax was working with some rougher pieces. He had the same core that made it to the grand finals of the previous major. And he had the exact same core that was playing with Shuhei. And yeah, that's like what Shuhei did with that core was incredible. And it's why Shuhei, I still rate him highly to this day, because that just felt unbelievable. It almost feels like Alexi early ENCE days with what Shuhei did with that GamerLegion core. It's just like he took practically nobodies, and most of those guys are still nobodies. The only guy that's still playing at a decent level is Ima, and he got them to the grand finals, and Snax couldn't even get them to qualify for the next major. Okay, so beyond that, so Snax had decent stats, and a few people, Richard is one of them, Richard was 100% one of them, who were saying, like, at least he's a better fragger than Hooksy. Okay, Snax had every good position you could possibly want as a rifle. He played the A rifle on overpass, okay? Like, he was playing the best spots you could play on almost every single map.
Which, by the way, was part of probably how we got in the team, because overpass was in the pool at the time, and they used to play all the time in GamerLegion.
Yeah, exactly. So all of these aspects made it look like maybe Snax was a little bit better. And reminder, when Snax was on GamerLegion, they only qualified to that major because 9Pandas didn't get visas. Okay, like, that's the only reason they made it to that major in general. So he didn't even qualify to a major with a core that was just at the grand finals of the previous major, albeit a different game. Yes, it was the CSGO to CS2 transition at that time, but I was so against it. And so for Snax to be gone now, I'm glad, because I think a team or an organization of G2 stature should be looking and setting their sights higher than somebody like Snax, who may gain you some fans. Like, the Polish fandom has never been stronger for G2 than it's probably been for any team I've seen since Virtus Pro. But at the same time, I don't really see Snax being an in-game leader that's going to get you to the highest of highs, which is what an org like G2 should be aspiring to. So for them to finally bench him, I actually find it bittersweet, which I feel like might be surprising to a lot of people, because I actually think Snax was not the problem at the tail end of this roster. I feel like it was all of the moving pieces, the fact that they were using Hades for Monacy, the fact that Malbs wasn't actually adjusting well to the CT side switches for his positions. So I think Heavy God did practically everything in his power that he could. But in all honesty, I feel like Snax was holding down some of the positions that he was playing decently. I'm not going to say well, but decently. Like, Cave on Ancient was one where I was like, wow, every time I watch this guy play Cave on Ancient, I'm actually feeling like I'm learning things, or just watching like that old man game where he's just wall banging people and just kind of like slyly getting away every time. So I didn't think, and even thinking about actually some of his performances at Shanghai, he was not the guy that crumbled.
No, he had some good games.
Nico. Yeah, Nico had his problems again at Shanghai, and then it was Snax that like out-fragged him or out-rated him in a couple big games. So that's I mean, I thought Snax actually started holding up his end of the bargain towards the tail end, and I almost feel like this move sort of lags the perception of like versus the reality. Like Snax was, to me, not an asset to the team for the first 9 months that he was on G2, but towards the last 6, I actually didn't feel like he was doing all that bad of a job. I mean, if I'm being completely honest. So this is and now that you're going into the dark with Hunter becoming the in-game leader, and I've heard some, the idea of Hunter becoming the G2 IGL has been flirted with for some time now, and he never really pulled the trigger. I don't know what changed here, or if really at this point he's just been forced into the role. And I just never really think if you're forced into the IGL role, as opposed to willingly jumping into it head first. Like, I need to hear some convincing interviews really quickly out of the G2 camp for me to build any confidence in Hunter being the in-game leader, because it's a tough role if you're just gonna like dip one foot in. And if that's what we're getting, if we're getting Hunter dipping his toes into the in-game leader role, not actually swinging the door wide open and jumping through and actually fully embracing it, then I'm not really sold on this G2 project moving forward. So that's why it's all a little bit bittersweet. But I mean, I didn't think Snax was going to be in-game leading a championship caliber team, but for my money, tomorrow, who would I want as my IGL if I want to do better in a tournament? I'd actually probably take Snax over Hunter, but that's not something I would have said for the first 9 months or 6 months of Snax being on the roster.
By the way, enough time has passed. I'll basically just say it like this, but I'll do that clever thing where it sounds like I'm just saying a rumour, and therefore you can't... How certain is it? Or maybe it's just something he heard. So, but this way, here's what I heard last year about G2, right? Everyone knows at the end of 2023, Nico was supposed to join Falcons. That no report was all true as far as I know. He literally had said, I'll join. They'd said, great, you're in. He told G2 already. G2, by the way, was making moves like going to kick JKS and do a bunch of other things. I believe that was even when they were recruiting Taz, I think was around that time period. So I think actually the joke is Taz initially thought he was coming with the initial roster that had the JKS one, and then he found it's not JKS, but he gets Nico. So anyway, here's the part people don't know, is when Nico didn't join, where essentially he had said everything you could do except sign the actual piece of paper, which by the way is normally the formality. Once you say yes, signing it's normally not the hard part, is it? But anyway, he didn't sign it. What people don't know is this. I basically heard, see how I did that? I heard last year that then for whatever reason, it like that wasn't like they went away and then came back a year later like, hey, do you want to join? I heard the whole time Falcons was like, well, are you going to join though? And I heard basically it was going back and forth with Eco and Falcons, and that at one point, and this is going to be relevant now to the Snax thing, right around that player break where they brought Snax in and they kicked out Nexa and brought in Malbs, that was exactly the time period I heard where basically, listen, let's just say I heard Nico already had signed with Falcons. And then basically, so if you're G2, because I heard it was along the lines of like, look, we're not just going to fucking keep asking you every few months. Like, agree, either join or we're just going to go and pursue someone else. And he basically just agreed, like, right, I'll join then. Okay, there's my deal. Like, I'm going to join. And so that's why, if you notice on all my shows last year, I tried to hint over and over again. One, you can write a million Reddit posts. There's no world where Nico's staying because he's modesty, haha, I ship them and all that. That was all just some stupid shit. He was already gone. He was basically already gone, guys. Two, the reality as it ended up did happening was Modesty might just follow him. I mean, I think the joke is that did play out the way it looked like. He decided to stay in G2 initially, then he quickly realised, this fucking sucks. So then he did go to Nico. Obviously, it's like, hey, you up? You know, the fucking even it. And then lastly, the reason I think it's more relevant, which is why I bring this up, is because I do think that entire last season at the end of 2024 was just a dead team. And but it was like the good dead team. It was the one where it's not because we have beef. It's not because I hate you. It's not because like you don't like it. You're already gone, but because we're sort of at peace with the fact you're gone and we know this is a stopgap roster, I think that even makes sense in their results, guys. The really big ones, the Colognes and the Majors, they sort of failed because the pressure was huge. And the ones it didn't matter, the normal blast events, which are good team, they were fucking awesome. They had some great runs where they won the whole tournament and players did play the way you'd want to. Players played like they had no pressure, like they thought, like I'm saying the reality, like they knew what the case was with the team. Even by the way, if you're someone like Malbs, what a great way to get eased into a squad. You come in as like the third best player. People know you're not doing all your CT roles, and you were two of the best players in the world, and it doesn't matter, the team's going to break up no matter what. Like, that sounds like an awesome way to just bed in. So basically, the reason I bring this up is I actually think that's why I don't hate the Snax move they did, because if you look at how it was back then, it's almost implied that probably wasn't their first choice. That was like, you know, you want to replace Huxley, you've decided already that part's going to happen, and then you look around the scene and see who's available, and it looks to me like with the Snax one, like that was one of your last choices. Like you were like, fuck, all right, bring this guy in. So I don't hate the idea you sort of tried that for a dead season basically, and then the idea was you give him another season, give him a couple of good players from the scene. Heavy God's a legit fucking player. You still had Modesty, remember? Let's see that. Now let's see when you take out the Nico factor, who, by the way, from all interviews, does seem like if he's not the secret IGL, he's one of the best fucking secondary callers we've ever had in CS. Like, so let's take him out and then let's see how this guy sort of flies on his own without the stabilizer wheels, to mix my metaphors. So the problem was it wasn't awesome. It was just all right, wasn't it? So I actually think overall, even though the problem with the whole Snax dilemma is it is only arguably 2 years ago, this team was winning prestige events, which is way better than they're going to get now. So that looks whack that you sort of downgraded heroic style, like I was talking about before. But if you actually look in isolation, I don't actually hate these GM moves as bad as they seemed at the time. Like, if you actually know what they were working with, you can see now, by the way, how actually for people like Petzer, the GM, Taz, the coach, and then Snax as IGL, you weren't working with the easiest roster. You didn't have what everyone else said. You didn't have a core of players like, this is our team going forwards for years. Let's build something. You were like every 6 months having to change a key piece or restart from square one. So I actually don't think it's as egregious as it seemed that he did join G2. With that said, yes, Maui, I think we are absolutely right from day one. I don't really care that he won 2 blasts. When you had a squad like he had, you were supposed to win the major. I'm sorry. Put it this way, if my boy Carrigan had fucking last year, Nico and Monacy, and he didn't win the major, I would say he'd fucking failed. Come on. That's just that's the expectation when you got those players.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.